Okay, so we're going to take a bit of a break from the main gun from the Nashorn and do some of the interior of the superstructure at this point. So before we start here, it's best if we make sure that these sides here are as straight as we can make them just by hand. So they're not bowed in. Usually in is more of the problem. Sometimes they bow out, not very often. So just make sure that they look pretty straight to you. And if you're following along, then we're going to need to modify these platform extension pieces to extend this down. I'm going to change the template, but some modification will probably be necessary just because the superstructure goes together a little bit differently each time. For me though, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, this platform these sit on the inside here and abut right up to this, but this platform is supposed to go right down onto here. So we're just going to extend them a little bit. And also I found that I needed to cut mine on the side a little bit to make them fit in there. You may have to do that as well. Again, that's more of a randomness of how the superstructure all fits together in the end, rather than the piece being completely wrong. So I'm just going to use a regular paper to extend the length of this a bit. Same for the other piece. Now, if you do have to make this thinner, I would recommend doing it on the inside. The outside still has to fit in correctly. So there we go. That's a bit extra long. But again, the amount of length you need for those somewhat varies depending on how your superstructure has gone together. So once you have those completed, just test fit them into the superstructure. And like I said, you want them all the way forward. And this angle to kind of look like it's meeting up almost right where this angle comes off. So that's about right. You should be able to see, like, yeah, you've jammed it forward all the way you can. And then you can either pull it out and glue it in, or you can just kind of slip some glue in underneath here for now. Glue it experimentally in place. And then just kind of add glue, pull the parts with a round toothpick or a skewer into the position that you desire them to be in. And just do exactly the same on the other side. I'm going to move on to the next piece, which is this longer strut. thicker glue out here. This long strut goes tucked in right beside where that extension is. And you can see how it's flat on the bottom, and then one side comes up at a 90 degree and the other one's slightly angled. The angled side goes in. So that is where I'm going to place the glue, just along that flat edge. You can also put some along the bottom. And sometimes tweezers help for this, but I can usually just get this to go into place by hand. And even though it extends over the top, just leave it extending. There's some optional detail that can go up on there. And just try to make sure it looks like it's coming up, which isn't always the easiest. Just that it's coming up straight. 90 degrees. And same for the other side with the other strut. And then on the back, we've got a bench and some doors, which we're going to install. Now, I haven't yet, but I do recommend that these get cut apart, and you leave a tiny little gap between them when you install them. And just install them. Oh, get some thinner glue out again. Sometimes it's actually smarter to install the outside doors and then install the inside doors based on where those end up. So actually that's what I'm going to do. And just leave that little gap between them to make that you've cut them apart more obvious. And it kind of gives them the look of actual doors. And I think that the symbol, like the actual doors, are a little bit smaller than the symbol, so that gives you the extra room so that you can just kind of put them down where they look like they're supposed to go. Here we go. So now that you have the outside installed, the inside should be much easier to do, because you can see exactly where you need to put the parts from above, hopefully. Now obviously if you're having the doors open, it's a little bit different, but it's essentially the same. Just install them in the obvious place. And even with this wet glue, you only got a very little time, especially when you're attaching to the non-glossy side of cardboard. It starts gluing into place like really fast, so try to get them positioned quickly. And it just makes it so you don't have to tear them off and reposition them again. And now, the last, well, no, not the last piece. Let's install this bench. And just going to use straight glue along the two leading edges. And the shorter one, actually the bench writing ends up upside down, which I'll have to change. The shorter side goes as height. Should make it a little bit easier to install. Okay. And we've got these small struts. And the symbol to where to put them is actually on the outside of the template. But basically they go, again, angled part N. I know this stuff is not easy. Tweezers or needle nose pliers can help quite a bit. That's definitely the way to do it. Get it sort of in position, and then you can kick it around a little bit with this. Check and make sure. So yeah, it comes right to the top of that corner and then goes straight down. So it's not right up against the side here. And then once you've got it in position, you can use some 2-to-1 glue, like watery glue. Just kind of make sure it stays where it's going to go. So obviously you do the same thing all along this side as well. And that gets you to the next video. Thanks for watching. See you soon.